Today is July 31st, 2023. And we just got a new forestry block for part 2. And boy, it's looking grim. It's worse than I expected. They're starting off with a good thing. The tertiary effects are gone. I still can't believe someone actually came up with these and said, like, yeah, this is fine. But anyway, they are removed, so no like Slayer buffs or minigame buffs from sipping some tea. And then they explain some stuff about the leaves, that they are an invisible boost that gives you a higher success rate in gathering and production activities. And they're also giving examples of thieving and construction, which are utility skills, but yeah, a little bit weird. And also, you don't even use nails past level 19 construction, so I'm not really seeing the argument for using less nails for this, so yeah, a weird one. And you can get these boosts with campfires and teas. And also with the campfires, they are just sneaking in bonfires. Which kind of makes sense, because half the player base hates playing this game, so they have to make it a little bit like less clicking for them. But I guess that's fine at like 1/4 of the XP, that's not really gonna impact anything. Just the lazy people get to be more lazy. But now the teas, my main issue with this whole thing. You can use 15 leaves in total to create a tea, and the tea can buff your gathering and production success rates. And some of the leaves also add more duration, so you kind of just want to like find a combo with like the most amount of leaves that give success chance, and also some for duration to like use less tea per hour. But basically you only go for gathering, since production seems kind of useless outside of cooking 3.99 maybe. But man, this is really bad for skilling as a whole. With 13 magic leaves and 2 oaks, you get an 11% boost to your success rate with a duration of almost 10 minutes. So for every gathering skill or method, you would bring these teas with you. And I'm mainly talking about main skilling here, as that is like the most competitive and I have the most experience with, as you can just trade teas from your alt and don't have to worry about making them yourself if you were an Iron Man. And 11% is just way too high. It would buff some methods to the moon for just sipping some silly tea. And some examples for methods that are getting affected by this. 1.5 tick teaks, which is currently around 200 to 210k an hour, would probably go to like 250 to 260k, with also the current proposal for the two-handed axes. Volcanic Mine, which is already like been buffed due to like crystal pickaxe and such, and you can also do some boosting with it. It's probably gonna go to like 120k an hour, which is getting actually close to Granite, because Granite is not really getting that much of a buff, since the success rate is pretty high already there. So Granite would probably only get like a couple k per hour. 2-tick Fishing is around 140k at the moment, and will probably go over 150. Black Chins can probably go close to 300k. Fire Thieving is also probably going to 300k thieving an hour. And Tsar Thieving will probably make it so that you cannot fail pickpocketing the Tsars. So that is also gonna be like the best in slot thieving training method for at like 310k an hour. But all those things I just listed, this is just like our escape from RS3. If you don't use the teas while skilling, you are trolling and being inefficient. And I kinda thought, or at least I hoped, Jagex had learned their lesson when we said we didn't want the skilling prayers for exactly this reason. But no, here we are, getting forced to bring teas on an alt to train half of the skills. Does this mean teas shouldn't come into the game? Well, not necessarily. I think there could be a place for them, but not in the current form. Instead of making it an increase to the success rate, which is directly an increase to XP rates, what if you had a chance to get more resources for no additional XP while being under the effect of the teas? Could be a way to make skilling a bit more profitable, but then again, the same concept is still applying, that you would have to be under the effect of the tea to do something efficiently. So I would still like to see the teas just being scrapped. And they're also going to add a couple more events and reworking one current event. And the event that gets reworked is the Leprechaun, because it was not that great in the first installment of Forestry. And it's actually a nice change that they are proposing here. It will spawn some rainbows, which you can stand in for an XP buff for chopping trees and actually get some bark from that too. You're actually being incentivized to chop a tree from an event? Who would have thought? And then we have the friendly ant. Don't really care about this one. It's probably gonna be just as broken as the sapling. At least you're using an axe for this one though. And the beehive. This is, again, classic forestry, doing a construction or crafting like action for woodcutting XP. Makes sense, yeah. Pheasants and poacher event. Woodcutting XP for doing a hunter-like activity. Same story as the bees, but I think that ship has sailed already, unfortunately. And then we have the Dryad event. And all I can see with this one is the words big drop of XP. And that makes me kind of scared. And this will probably be like 300k an hour effective, just like the sapling, and the mods will say like nothing is wrong. And now we move to the rewards, which were pretty much non-existent at part 1, because they scrapped the two-handed axe last minute, because the feedback wasn't that positive for the energy like system they had come up with the two-handed axes. So I was like, oh, well, they scrapped the axes because, yeah, the thing wasn't well received, so they probably came up with something new. So I started reading, and it's exactly the same. The only thing that changed is that the rations give 20% instead of 30%. Like, you can't make this shit up, man. In my opinion, a bigger axe means more effective chops. So I would suggest making it so that you have a 20% chance for double logs, without additional XP of course, and scrap the whole energy thing. And the energy thing only existed in the first place to give the rations a use, I think. So to tackle that, I would just make the rations a budget energy potion. So just make it so that the rations are not stackable anymore. And it's a one-time use, and it replenishes 30% run energy. So it's a little bit less than like a 4-dose energy potion, but it's less tedious because you only can click it once for 30% and not 4 times 10%. So that could be a nice alternative for normal energy pots outside of Herblore. Then they have the sawmill voucher, cool idea, kinda whatever. Just make them expensive enough from the shop that it isn't worth it for Iron Man construction training XP-wise, but only a nice way to save some GP from making planks. And we have the Twitcher gloves. I don't care, I'm not a slave to the collection log. And then some other changes to current content. They seem reasonable, so yeah, and they will probably help my Ultimate Iron Man speedrun, because 2 of them are more for the UAMs, and they're also not even being pulled. And now a quick recap. Well, you probably got from this video that I don't really like Forestry, and I already disliked Forestry Part 1 because of how poorly it was executed, and that like half of your XP comes from the events and not from doing the actual woodcutting skill. But I actually dislike it even more now, because the Aurascape tease that they are proposing. So for the long-term health of the game, well, mainly skilling in particular, when you're about to vote, please consider my arguments that I put forward in this video. Because this is once more a slippery slope towards RS3, just like the skilling prayers were. But luckily they got scrapped. But imagine they were in the game and stackable with this bullshit. And also if taming was a skill to come into the game at some point. Like, skilling would be in such a bad place if all those things were coming into the game and being able to stack upon each other. So yeah, just a couple silly updates could actually make skilling really unfun for the players who are most dedicated to it. And that reminds me of a post I saw a little while back on Reddit, believe it or not. And they stated that catering too much to casual players will eventually kill OSRS. And I know this game is a business and it needs to make money off the more casual players as well, because that is the larger player base. But more and more low effort, high reward updates are coming into the game to attract more players, giving the casual players their quick dopamine fixes. But at some point, those players will get bored of this game and just move on to another game or whatever. And then the players who are most dedicated and care the most about this game are left with a game that they cannot enjoy anymore due to all the updates, therefore making them quit too at some point. But yeah, that was my little rant why this update could ruin skilling forever and set the tone for the future of this game. Hope you found it insightful and not too annoying, because I don't like to be salty over updates and come over as a crybaby, but I felt like I had to voice my opinion on this one, as I would like to keep enjoying skilling in this game. So thank you for listening and have a nice week. See ya.